Gemara, today's daf is daf mem gimel. So the last thing we learned was a brisa that has three different dinim, and the brisa says the following: the brisa says, first of all, it says all the mazolos, all the constellations, whatever it is, are all permitted. And what does permitted mean? Does it mean that you're allowed to build anything you want? And it says like sasun iti, you're not allowed to build anything that is close to Hashem, none of the celestial bodies. So it must be that's talking about if you found something, it is what do you want? If you found something that has the image of the moon and the sun, that you have to get rid of them. Okay. Then the next case is we said oh, and the drukken. Yeah. So sun and moon, celestial bodies, you have to get rid of. So what you found, then you therefore, and all other bodies. Okay. It's what you found. So you're not allowed to make what you found. So, okay, so Gemara says here further. Then it says the next case was that all the patzufin, all the images of living things, are permitted, except the image of a person. If it's talking about finding, then why is the image of a person forbidden? Our mission says the only thing that if you found it's forbidden is the sun and the moon, because those were usually made, images as for idols, not a person. So therefore, it must be talking about the second case. It must be talking about that you built. You're not allowed to build the image of a person. And why not build the image of the person? So like Sas and E.T., only celestial bodies. We also dash in today's Gemara, which we're learning today's Gemara, like Sas and Oisi. Don't make something that's me, and we're creating God's image. And the third case was in the Mishnah. It says all the tsuras, any image is forbidden, except the image of a what do you call it? Of a dragon. Now, if we're talking about creating, you're allowed to create an image of a dragon, only like Sas and Ichi. So they're talking about, if you found it, then it probably was a means of worship. So we're trying to work out how the Braisa changes back and forth from finding to creating. So the Gemara first said, yes, it's possible that the Braisa keeps on changing, but other comes along and says no. Now we're going to say that finding a person also can be considered Avodah Zarah. How the Mishnah, our Mishnah says only the moon and the sun and the dragon. So the Gemara says here about 8 lines from the. It's 5 lines from the top. Rabbi Makulab might say the entire Braisa talking about you that Mem Gimel Amr Aleph. 5 lines at the top. Rabbi says, talking about that you found it. Image of a person is not a problem. This follows the view of Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that even a person's image can be avoided. What kind of person's image? Time we learned. He adds Av Demus Menika, the image of a woman who's nursing, and Visar Ap is the image of a person of an officer. Menika, why? What's why is that an idol? Al Shem Chava, a nursing mother.
No, sorry.
An officer. Somebody became an officer. An ordinary person became an officer. Menika Hashem Chava, like Chava, Shemnika Kolam Kula, she supports the entire world as godly, and it's like a deity. And Sarap is Al Shem Yosef. This is referring to this godly because this follows Yosef. That Shesara Mapis is Kola Olam. He appeased the whole world. He was like an officer, and he ruled over the whole world, and he appeased them from their hunger. But only one of the considered the deities. The Naka Griv is holding, let's say, he's holding on a measure in his hand, Chokayo, and he's measuring. It's like Yosef was measuring everybody how many grains he's giving. But he, by the woman, the Nokta Ben, holding on to son, the Kamenika, and nursing. What's the definition of a dragon? That they have. Rashi gives two explanations: either hairs or fins, between the vertebrae. In order for a dragon to be a dragon, it has to have either hairs between the vertebrae or near the neck, or it has to have the fins. Allah like him. The great man, but that's a road. The Moshe shot the basi found the ring. Well, Tsudas dark, and there was an image there of a dragon, which means that it could be it's an Avodah Zarah. So he had to, before he picked it up. He found a young guy. Didn't tell him anything. He found an adult. He told this guy, go ahead and cancel the Avodah Zarah of that ring, even though the ring did not belong to the guy. He was hefker. The guy refused. Satre gave him a smack, butler, and then the guy went ahead and rescinded the Avodah Zarah in it. Shmam Lachlas, look from here, 3 dinim. Shmamana, first of all, a guy can cancel not only his own Avodah Zarah, but any guy's Avodah Zarah. He can, even though he's not the owner. The fact that a Yid cannot, we don't need this Gemara, is a Mefesh Mishnah. Ushmamana, we learn out Yodeya B'tiv Shel Avodah Zarah only if you're over 13. Bardas, about you can cancel it. Your mind, or you have no understanding what it is. You don't have the capacity to mevatel. And the third one is you can force him to mevatel it. You can force him to mevatel it. And we don't make the whole. Okay, anyway, Megad but he sort of scoffed at it. Less than a below a kappa, but he doesn't hold it. Now we learned if somebody saves rescues from a lion, from a bear, and a from a leopard, a guy from soldiers, from bandits, marauders, from the river. In other words, all of these things, at least those items are like hefker. However, if a lion took away something of yours, you don't expect to get it back. So all of these, the real owner gave it up. From the what I call, let's say the water that flooded, from the things that the river plundered. No, it crossed its banks and took things away. You found in the big market square. Anyway, there's a multitude of people at El Shlo. You can keep it warm. So the ring, the owner's Mayayish. Isn't that tantamount to bittul of the Avodah Zarah as well? I'm going to buy it. So I answered, the guy the ownership of Misuda Miyayish, who said he's Miyayish from the Issa. Maybe he says, he will find it. He will bow down to it, and he saw Mashkel. So therefore, why should I take away that Avodah Zarah? He'll continue using Avodah Zarah. I don't care who the owner is. He doesn't care who the owner is. And he saw Mashkel. He will find it. I did the Demei Yukari. I realized that this is much more than just an ordinary ring. This is Avodah Zarah. He's Mazbil Chavim. He will sell it to a guy. The guy will bow down to it. So let me leave it. Now, this guy actually was ready to help the Eden out, which is pretty good to let Eden make some money. Anyway, it seems that the two sides of here is how do we understand Yiddish? As we know in the Zayin, cases of Bachlekes, Shenim, in Baba Kama, if Yiddish means you're walking away from something, or Yiddish is you're actually being mafka something. So initially, the Gemara thought that Yiddish is maybe just that you're being mafkir, and you're being mafkir, so you did something. So if you're being mafkir, doing a pula, that pula also is a bittul as well. And they want to say, no, Yish is not being mafki, Yish is walking away. So therefore, it's not automatic that the Avodah Zarah goes away because you just walk away from it. How is that mevatel Avodah Zarah? You have to do a pu'ula to mevatel Avodah Zarah separate. But he didn't because of these cheshbonus. So that's the two sides of the question here. Stanhouse, we learned in a Mishnah. Now, we're going to have a discussion based on Gemara Rosh Hashanah that in order to query, when witnesses came and said they saw a new moon, we would still query them to make sure that they're saying that, accurate. It's not just a figment of the imagination. We asked them the shape of the moon, which this horizon is, and they would have images of the moon and the stars to ask, position of the star and which star was it, and all those kind of questions. So they had images. We just let you know make images. Spread the Gemara. That's how we learned. The most so this Levanas he had it here. Rabbi Gamliel had it in his upstairs in his attic. He had the images of the moon and so on, or different kinds of moons. But tabla on a board, because on the wall, Shabahan Madas at Yates, he would show it to the ordinary people. I'm like, Kazedi said, tell me what the shape of the moon was. This way he could tell whether they were saying the truth. Now the question is, Mishari, how can he make images of the moon? You shouldn't make like the Musa Masha Moshe, that's served for me. And even a picture is forbidden. Now we're going to have the Gemara will discuss later that by a person it's only also if it's three-dimensional, not if it's two-dimensional. There was a flat picture, a painting, is an usher according to by the way. Not everybody agrees. But the moon and the sun and all these things are just flat. There's also usher. So how do you have these images on this board? I'm going to buy. I said, Shabai comes along and work his way through. Loy also toda elishamoshin she'efshel lasik emotion. The Eastern is only if you make an exact replica. Obviously, the moon, including the size, like we're seeing in Beis Hamikdash. You only also if you do it exactly the same measurements and everything, like the base of English. So therefore, it's not shy to be usher in the moon. You shouldn't make yourself bias. Tablet heichel. You shouldn't make yourself a house that looks exactly like the heichel of the base of English. You don't make a replica. Aksad the porch. Tablet ulam. That's similar to the ulam to the whole way. Chotzer a courtyard. Tablet azara. Similar to the courtyard of the base of English. And shulchan tablet shulchan, or a table similar to the table of the base of English. And menoida tablet menoida. I'll do all these things. You can make a menoida shal hey. If it only has 5 sticks, or shal vav 6, or shal ches or 8. That is why you'll see that they don't sell Shabbos candles. You won't find candelabras 6, 7, 7 branches. Will always be 6 or 8. You don't find 7, even though it's not the same. Or more, yeah. But you won't find anything, even though the shape is totally different. Still, they don't have 7. B'shazayin. In fact, that's one of the answers of I tell you, Sabbath Sefer had 136 answers on the question why Chanukah is 8 days, not 7 days, which should be. One of the answers is because we can't have a minute or 7. And you're not allowed to make necklaces of gold, even though the minute is made out of gold, but any kind of metal. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, even wood you should make. Because when they came, they came back to the base of Mikdash after the Syrians ransacked the base of Mikdash and everything else. They came in and they had to make a temporary thing made out of wood. That's why that's one of the answers. The answer was Makabel Tumah, because they were all Tommy Mason. They said Misham Rayesh Pudishal Basil Hayu. The menorah itself was essentially made out of metal. And Novos for Chayfen base, they just coated it with wood, make it look a little bit nicer. The sheet, sorry, the bats, the tin. Okay. And the sheet became richer. Also, Shulkeset became richer. They made. Oh, you're right, tin. They became richer. They made out of silver. Chazrush became richer again. Also, Shulzah. So all materials are good, but not wood. They never used wood. So they're actually arguing on a Metzias, which is interesting. What did they do? Use wood? Or did they use? There's actually a Mashal in Shabbos, or following days that talks about this. And one of the questions, so you're telling me, you Abaya telling me that when he asked us, we're asking a question, how are we able to have images of the moon to show the age of the new moon? You're not allowed to make images. So Abaya came along and said, the only Easter is we make exact replicas, like by base of English, and make exactly the size of the moon as well. It's impossible. So they said to him, "What? Are you telling me what? Because you can't make exactly the way it is. It's permitted. But time to be learned. You shouldn't make like my images. That means all these celestial bodies. I mean, if clear as us, you can't make the sun. You can't make the moon. There's image. General image is forbidden. I'm going to buy it. Says." He's continuing on the same theme. How Rabbi Gamliel do it? Because it's not really also what he did. And he said, well, also Toida Ella the Mus, when it says E.T., he's talking about the Dalet Ponim Bahadi Hadadi. He's talking about the 4 Chais and Makava. So you have there were 4 different living things there. So you had the person, and you had the lion, and you had the shoyd, and you had the eagle. These 4. You're not allowed to build all 4 together. So what are you saying? Parts of Adam Lechuda Tishtri. So you called you a buyer just to make the image of a person should be permitted. Allah Tanya, why did we learn just before yesterday that color parts of him all images of living things is permitted? Chutz parts of Adam, except for a person. Why is a person forbidden? And that we did learn yesterday that it's talking about that maybe that we learned 2 answers. One answer is talking about Moitzi. And like Robert said, it's talking about that you found, and it looks like an idol because it's of a woman nursing and all that. So besides the cold parts of return, anyone, I'm not going to be every sure, but it says there, like Sasson, eat assassin. You're not allowed to make a human image. You know why not make a human image? Because it says Leisas and Iti, which we learn generally speaking, I'll make the sun, the moon, all the celestial bodies, but also Dasha Oisi, a person but Tzelem Malakim Nivrod, and we were creating the image of Hashem, and therefore it's like you're making me. Yeah. So therefore a person alone is Asa. So all the Shem ask, if a person alone is Asa, what do you need a limit for that the 4 Chais and the cover you're not allowed to make? In there's a person. So you're already Asa out the person. What do you have to tell me that Leisas and Iti, Rabbi said before, was talking about only you're not allowed to do all 4 together. The traces here answers another shame. They're talking about a case you found already the image of a person. You didn't create it. So you would think you're allowed to add on the other three images to make the four chayis. It says no, you're not allowed to create a complete thing that has four chayis in it. Anyway, bottom line is Abai is still maintaining that Gamliel was allowed to do what he did. So the Gemara, all you're not allowed to do is a four chayes for a person. So the Gemara, Abel Shash and Moshe Shadi, but all this wasn't permitted. So the Gemara, Shash and Moshe Shadi, but all other Shamoshim are permitted. But can we learn Leisas and Iti Leisas another brayso Leisas and Kidmusha Moshe Hamisham for them Amorim. You're not allowed to create replicas of things which are celestial bodies, not just the four chayes and makala. Kigoy Fanim, Vesrofim, the chayes, different malachim, or malachi asharis. So we see that it's far more expensive than just the four chayes and makala. Amar Abai says, "Well, Usher Torah, you're right. That's Usher. What's up to do what we're talking about? We're talking about the sun, the moon. Gamil has the moon, different images of the moon. The heaven can be divided in different, levels. We had more chagiga. There's seven, levels, seven skies. There's more. There's Elyon, and there's a mother Tachten. The mother Elyon with the malachim and all these things. Like that's not allowed to create, but the mother Tachten may be allowed to. The moon. So the mother, the lower levels strata. Only the highest strata. But the Gemara, Shemada Tachim Mishra, wait, tell me the lower strata you're allowed to have images of the moon. But Tanya, didn't we learn Asher Bashamayim Lerabbis Chama another brayse? It says clearly to include the sun, the moon, Kechavim Umazolus, and the stars. Clearly, you're not allowed to have images of the moon. Hence the Baya Ki Tanya he loved them. It's not talking about creating the images, it's talking about worshiping them. You're not allowed to worship all of these celestial bodies, but creating allowed to. So Gamliel did the right thing when he made the different images of the moon in his attic. Freddie Muddy Eloy, you're not allowed to serve them the white up to Malach. You're not allowed to even serve a worm, you're not serve anything, you're not worship anything. So why is it limited only to these the Heichefens to the you are right. That the Gemara is bringing, the Brais is bringing the beginning of the pasuk, and what you learn from the beginning of the pasuk. You're asking me a question. If so, there's more things. You're right, but we learned that from a different part of the pasuk. The time we learned Asher ba'aretz. It says in the pasuk Asher ba'aretz. L'rabes yamim unahoretz. Asher b'shamayim emal. Al'aretz metocha. So al'aretz metocha includes your shilshul. Shilshul is worm. But the Gemara. So therefore, so bottom line, Abai is still maintaining. As Tracy uses the words in the bottom, that called divra by a divra emersame, that you're still maintaining you're allowed to. Right? You're allowed to. But Tanya, so you tell me what, that to create the images you're allowed to as long as you don't worship them. But Tanya, we learn, like Sas and Iki, it says another brayse, Loi Sas and Kidmusha Moshe, you should not build replicas, you should not build now replicas. Hamisham Shalafon Ibn it says clearly. Then Kigaychama, Ulavona, the Kachavim Mazolus. So the Bryce here completely creates a bias. That's clearly you're not allowed to build the sun and moon. So Gemara goes back to the question, no. So what did Gamliel do? How can he do it? So we'll give a few answers. I'm going to answer Shining Gamliel, that he didn't do it, others did it for him. This asks a very important question, that this rule that you're not allowed to have a goy do an Avodah for you on Shabbos is not limited to Shabbos. Is a din in Kol HaTorah Kula. So how in the world did Gamliel commission a goy to go ahead and make an Avodah Zarah for him, make a way for him? So Teza answers in a way, just like by Shabbos, we have an exception that you're allowed to do a shvus the shvus. In other words, if it's a tzorech mitzvah or tzorech chayla, if it's for a mitzvah's sake, you're allowed to have a goy to do anisa the rabbanon. So here also, you're allowed to the Easter of having a goy since it's a tzorech mitzvah, you're allowed to. Now here it's not a shvus the shvus. Here it's a single shvus. Because it's also to make Avodah Zarah Mahatayil l'sasuniti, but still the Isra of telling a guy is only in the Rabbanon, and so mitzvah by the rest of the Torah, even one shvus we are going to allow that because of Tzorech mitzvah. And anyway, to the Gemara, what Rabbi Yehuda, that Achedim also like Yehuda, others did for him. What happened? Yehuda, Achedim also like others made for him. Make for him a ring with an image of a person on it. Unbelievable. Shinina, you clever one. Sami Eina Dodi. The big machlek is how we learn this. But many say, if you buy a doll, I don't know if you heard this right, you should not have any full images, full. So many say that you're supposed to break an ear off, break a thing off, comes from the Gemara here. Because he said they take the Gemara kipshute. So many then cut blind one of the eyes of this image that you have. And then the Achrayim talk about how much you have to break, because some say that by Avodah Zarah they're so precious that the slightest sudden they wouldn't use Avodah Zarah. In fact, before we had the Gemara, if you pressed it together, the guy is happy because nothing is missing. The moment even the tiniest piece of the ear, bent at the bottom of the ear, you give a cut off a little piece is enough because Avodah Zarah has to be shlemus. So that's right. Others say it has to be much more significant and something that's much more obvious. Okay, so the argument is, how do we, this Gemara, when he said blinded eye, he meant figuratively speaking or he meant literally do that? Anyway, so Gemara says, Hasam there, b'chaysamay bailet. Over there, it's talking about that the chaysam is bailet, umeshum chshada. That he's saying over here is that even though Achedim did it, because someone else did it, so if someone else did it, it is forbidden because it's three-dimensional. When you have a ring with a chesama bailet, it's three-dimensional. The person is protruding is three-dimensional. So, the Tanya, we learned, a ring that the chesima is bailet sticking out, also looking out weird because that's like Avodah Zarah. And there'll be chesed that you'll be serving Avodah Zarah. And so now we're talking, there's chshad and there's also the Isa making it. There's Isa because it will be chesed. But a muta lachtava, you're allowed to use it because when you use it as a stamp, it goes into wax. It makes a depression in the wax, so therefore nothing is violent. You're allowed to. But if the image is sunk in, so then the ring itself is all right. Nobody has Avodah Zarah where it's sunk in. Muta lahanichal weird, but also lachtava because you can create now three-dimensional images. Because the way it works is, if it's crochet and then the wax, it gets rid of all the wax around, whatever they're trying to make an image of a person, it gets rid of all the wax around, and what's left now is protruding the image of a person. So, bottom line is, based on this Gemara, the big machlekes, the long Taisus in Yom as well. So, the big machlekes here. Taisus want to say there's a difference over here. Taisus says the important Taisus. Why don't we just answer, says Taisus, that the moon and the sun and everything else wasn't three-dimensional? If you tell me now that it has to be three-dimensional, so say that Rav Gamliel had pictures. That's all. So Taisus says that in the sun and the moon and mazolas, there's no chilik for three-dimensional, two-dimensional. A person is only usher for three-dimensional, and the logic behind that is the way we see the sun and the moon is two-dimensional. We just see the surface; we can't see anything. But a person, we can see the three-dimensional part of the person. So there's a difference. Big Machleim that by person also we machme because it's two-dimensional as well. Because here we're talking more about chshad than but so much about making and talking about achedim making more about you. Can you take pictures of a person? Because a picture or a painting is two-dimensional. And then if you remember today, you're hard to see anymore. There were a lot of people didn't refuse to be taken in a picture. In fact, in 770, till the early Lamed, they didn't let people bring cameras in. I remember clearly breaking cameras all the time. You now take pictures, and all the pictures were taken were hidden and. Yeah, okay. But till early Lamed Alva Bays, they would not take any cameras in some 70. They would not take pictures of people till today who are Mahmoud, they don't want to be take any pictures of anything else. Because even though it's two-dimensional, they think that it's still they learn like those who want to learn that Sasser as well. Okay, let's continue. So you want to write are we worried about chshad? But by knishta the Shafi Yosef, this base of medrash of Shafi Yosef, we're having Megillah as well. But this is a base of medrash. Either it was just the name of a place, or this is a base of medrash. They took the stones from Medrash and brought it to Bavel, and they made a base, and they made the Begol Zichonyim, and they brought it to Bavel to make the shul there. So Shav means they took it away, but Yosef and they set it up, reestablished here in Bavel. And they put a big statue right in front, and they had big statues there, three-dimensional, and they would go there and daven, and when they daven, they would bow down, and they would bow down, towards the Geshka. They weren't chayshed, the people would be chayshed that they're going to do Avodah Zarah. So Rabbim shiny, when there's a multitude of people there, it's different than everyone knows it's not Avodah Zarah. No, but Rabbi Gamliel did have. So how did Rabbi Gamliel do what he did? So Navas, you tell me a Rabbi is mutanu, Rabbi Gamliel is a yachid. So how can he? Why are we worried about chshad that people think that he's this? And remember, by the sun and moon, it doesn't matter three-dimensional or two-dimensional. Even the nasi who shchichi Rabbi Gabei. We had a concept before that sometimes if there's not shaykh this aveda, there's no iluf neiver, or there's no inner chshad. And here we're talking about Rabbi Gamliel. And he had a picture there, and people are going to be chayshed him. Like, yeah, they'll be chayshed. He's over the Avodah Zarah. So who's left? It's like Moshe Rabbeinu. I mean, just try to understand the Choshen of Eishes Ish. All the men were warning the wives to be careful, Moshe Rabbeinu. And if you think about it, we can't begin to understand. How can even people believe that? And then you look around the world today, see what everybody believes. You see, it's so easy to manipulate people. The boy is another answer is the prokim have it. Another answer is he didn't. He had 3-dimensional. It wasn't just painting, but they were parts like a Lego set. And he only put it together when he had to show the age, and afterwards he took it apart. A third answer, which is the answer we give often, is Islamit shiny. He did it in order to learn, to make sure that they got it right, and also to teach. The Tanya we learn, we learn from the Kisha from here. We learn different things that you learn if it's doing through Islamit. Rashbag says only if it's on a keli mechubed and you found an image, we say it's Avodah Zarah. What's the definition of a chashuv keli and what's the definition of a non-chashuv keli? Interesting. So Rav is going to learn it's the same keli, but it depends on which part of the keli. The bottom part of the keli where all the food is, it gets rusty and everything else. That's not covered at all. If it's the top part of the keli, which very seldom food reaches the waterline, above the waterline, that is covered. That's Rav. Shmuel says no, not at all. As we'll see. Is above the waterline. Mechavavazin is lamata, minamai low the waterline. Well, I'm both embarrassed, insulting. On the braces, on the zom, the nose bands, the rings. That's a chashuv keli. An image there means that's Avodah Zarah. An image on a pot is not Avodah Zarah. Tanya kavas shmul mechavavin ala shidin on the braces, on the zom, the nose bands, the rings. Bevuzin ala yesh the pots, and the jugs, and things that warm up food, which are and the linen of Amapatas on the towels. All of those are not bakavedik. Mishnah. What do you do? You grind Avodah Zarah, you toss it into the air, you scatter it in the air, you throw it into the yam, and we say it means yam hamelach. In other words, if you throw it in the air, it becomes a zevel, becomes like fertilizer. You shouldn't have that at all. And actually, Taisa brings it the Gemara in Psachim. The Gemara has a question according to Rabbi Yossi. Do you have to do both? You have to be sheikh when you throw it to yam. If you have to throw in the yam, do you throw it? You have to grind it first and then throw in the yam, or just throw the hole in the yam? So Gemara says by chametz you have to grind it first. So one answer Gemara because it goes all over all the yamin, so you have to make sure there's nothing edible. But by Avodah Zarah it goes to yam melech. Who goes there? Nobody. So you can throw it in the whole way. Anyway, we'll stop here tomorrow in Mitzvah Hashem.